You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the globe to bring you the latest developments in medical cannabis, adult marijuana, industrial hemp, and spiritual ganja.
We love the herb.
It's time for the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville. Now, here's your host, Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty. It is Wednesday, August 16th, 2017, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. It's also got to be a very sad anniversary for me personally, because today, August 16th, 2017, is the 40th anniversary of the death of the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, which was a big deal to me because as a kid, my dad was a musician and Elvis was his favorite musician. And so when Elvis died, it was like mourning in our home for like a week or longer. It was just Elvis music the whole time. So, if those Elvis fans out there, those of you out at Graceland, you can't say happy anniversary, but we are thinking of Elvis Presley and all the music he left behind on this day. Too bad Elvis wasn't more into weed and a little less into pills, too. That's, I guess, the way we could tie this back to the marijuana agenda. Speaking of the agenda today, shout out to our friends from Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo who are right here at Delta 9 House and Studios. We're all getting ready to head up to Seattle for the 26th annual Seattle Hempfest. It's taking place on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Myrtle Edwards Park in Seattle. Check out hempfest.org if you want to know more about it. And because of that, there will be no live show on Thursday and Friday as I'll be making my way up to Seattle. I'm speaking on all three stages and I'm appearing in a hemposium on Saturday having to do with the media and marijuana. So I'll get as much recording as I can and bring that back to you on Tuesday because, of course, Monday is Eclipse Day. We won't be having a live show then either. Coming up on today's show, we got an interview for our Cannabis Sports Medicine segment with my first NHL hockey player, Riley Cote, who played 8 seasons with the Philadelphia Flyers. He's on the show today talking about athletesforcare.org. And at the end of the show, I've got time for a radical rant. Kevin Sabet's taken out a full-page ad attacking Seattle Hempfest in the local Seattle paper. We'll tell you what his attack is all about and just how full of crap it is. That's all coming up today on the Marijuana Agenda, this special Hempfest preview edition. So looking forward to getting up there to Seattle's Myrtle Edwards Park and joining the Canna family for our annual family reunion. It really feels that way. But first, let's get to the cannabis headline news.
This is your Cannabis Headline News. Brought to you by MarijuanaMoment.net, the complete source for all your marijuana news in one morning newsletter from Marijuana Majority Founder Tom Angel. Subscribe today for free at MarijuanaMoment.net.
This is your Cannabis Headline News for Wednesday, August 16th, 2017. I'm Russ Belville. Washington Governor Jay Inslee and Attorney General Bob Ferguson wrote a letter to U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions rebuking him for his use of, quote, outdated, incorrect, or incomplete information, end quote, in criticizing their state's marijuana legalization. Sessions' July letter contained many references to information from the March 2016 Northwest High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area, their report on marijuana in Washington, which the Washington officials say, quote, fails to distinguish between marijuana activity that is legal and illegal under state law, end quote. Inslee and Ferguson criticized Sessions for alarmism about 17 explosions due to hash oil manufacturing, none of which occurred in a state-licensed facility. They also show how Sessions is using data that predates Washington's legalization and misreading statistics on marijuana and driving that aren't supported by the data. The Washington officials closed by noting the alternative prior to legalization was, quote, prohibition of marijuana that failed to prevent its widespread use, generating huge profits for violent criminal organizations, end quote. A bill signed by Oregon Governor Kate Brown on Tuesday makes personal use possession of cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and other drugs a misdemeanor, not a felony. Oregon joined just a handful of other U.S. states in defelonizing drugs under this new law, which was supported by law enforcement groups and takes effect immediately. Among the bill's supporters were the Oregon Association Chiefs of Police and the Oregon State Sheriff's Association, which said felony convictions include unintended consequences, including barriers to housing and employment. But the two two groups, in a letter to a state senator who backed the bill, said the new law, quote, will only produce positive results if additional drug treatment resources accompany this change in policy, end quote. Those who have a prior felony conviction won't be afforded misdemeanor consideration, nor will people who have 2 or more prior drug convictions or possess more than user amounts. The new law also directs a state commission to develop methods for recording data concerning police-initiated pedestrian and traffic stops. The measure is aimed at ensuring police aren't stopping people based on racial or other profiling. 32 drug suspects were killed and more than 100 rounded up by police in anti-drug operations across the province of Bulacan in the Philippines, officials said Wednesday. These suspects were killed in separate incidents Tuesday as police in Bulacan conducted 49 buy-bust operations and 3 checkpoints and served 14 search warrants throughout Bulacan, the Bulacan Provincial Police Office said in a statement. Authorities said they seized over 230 grams of suspected crystal meth, 765 grams of marijuana leaves, grenades, firearms, and ammunition from the suspects. The police relaunched a less bloody illegal drugs campaign on March 6th after over 2,500 drug suspects were killed during the first wave of its O-Plan Tokhang project in 2016. To date, government said over 3,400 suspects have been killed in police operations since July 2016, but local and international human rights groups claim more than 9,000 have died as a result of the drug war's alleged extrajudicial killings. A new petition for reduced marijuana possessions in Wichita, Kansas, has failed to get enough signatures to get the issue back to the voters. The Sedgwick County Elections Office received petitions with 10,793 signatures at the end of July. The office found that 7,949 were valid signatures of registered voters, short of the 9,523 that were needed. Wichita voters approved lighter penalties for first-time marijuana possession in 2015, but the Kansas Supreme Court later ruled the election results were invalid because of a technical issue with the petition process. The National Conference of State Legislatures, in addition to adopting a resolution calling for marijuana descheduling, approved a measure backing industrial hemp, writing, quote, NCSL supports federal legislation to define industrial hemp as a distinct agricultural crop of 1% or less THC content and allows states to regulate commercial hemp farming, end quote. Current laws on industrial hemp usually define the hemp as that which is less than 0.3% THC. NCSL is calling for 1% THC in hemp. This has been your Cannabis Headline News for Wednesday, August 16th, 2017. I'm Russ Belville.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
Looking for the 420 friendliest way to visit beautiful legal Potland, Oregon?
I'm Lori Duckworth, inviting you to come stay with us at Delta 9 House and Studios.
You get your own private room with queen bed and access to our high-speed Wi-Fi, premium entertainment system, and more.
We'll even cook you breakfast. Look us up on Facebook at Delta 9 House.
That's facebook.com/Delta9House. Delta 9 House is booked through Airbnb.com. City of Portland permit number 17-159855.
The Marijuana Agenda, like the conservative agenda, minus the hypocrisy.
If you work in the cannabis industry, consume marijuana, or just support freedom, you need to know about breaking policy news that affects you. Marijuana Moment is the daily newsletter that helps you stay on top of all the latest and most important state, federal, and international cannabis developments. Brought to you by longtime legalization activist Tom Angel, Marijuana Moment puts a concise yet comprehensive overview of cannabis news in your inbox early every weekday morning. Wake up to Marijuana Moment and rest assured you'll be ready for the cannabis news that's driving the day. Subscribe now at marijuanamoment.net.
Athletes have long been held out as role models in our society, but now the conflict between societal disapproval of marijuana use and the emerging science of cannabis medicine, especially as it relates to chronic pain and head trauma suffered by football players and martial artists, is leading some athletes to take a stand. The Gridiron Cannabis Coalition presents this edition of Cannabis Sports Medicine.
Welcome to another edition of Cannabis Sports Medicine. I'm Russ Belville, and joining us today, we have Riley Cote, who spent 8 years with the Philadelphia Flyers in the National Hockey League, and he's joining us today to talk about a new organization that he is the co-founder of. So, Riley, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, we're really excited about this organization that you started. It's called Athletes for Care, and we've talked to professional football players in the past on this program that are seeking medical marijuana access for athletes. You're our first National Hockey League player. Tell us about this organization and how you got it formed.
Yeah, so Athletes for Care is, simply a platform for not specifically pro athletes, but all athletes, including veterans. It really kind of extends to all people, but using our platforms as athletes is to create a platform for these people to help manage physical pain, acute pain, which a lot of these athletes suffer from during or post career, as well as mental health issues, addiction issues, and just helping them get back on their feet physically and mentally. So not exclusively cannabis and hemp oriented. We also, dip into nutritional healing, other botanical healing, yoga, meditation. So it's more of a alternative healing platform, but really kind of, focusing on the hemp and cannabis, since it obviously helps so quickly and so obviously. So, introducing them to that if they haven't been introduced to that before, helping with dosing, seeking them, depending on what state and where they're living, helping with that whole spiel. As well as, a lot of these guys suffer from an identity crisis once they retire, is they really don't know who they are anymore because they were always just a name, a part of a team, and that was their identity their whole lives. Giving these guys some purpose. I think cannabis is the perfect connector for this, simply because it helps, obviously, your own pain, helps you manage your own symptoms and conditions, but also it gives you the ability to help other people. And cannabis is special that way where, I think people can use their platform, pro sports or whatnot to help other people and, use their platform to stand your ground and preach your position on all this stuff. So I think a lot of these guys lack identity. It helps with purpose, but also on top of all that is gives these guys investment opportunities, job opportunities, speaking engagements, and that whole thing. Because obviously with the emerging cannabis and hemp space, there's a ton of opportunity, but again, like I said, the connection with cannabis is something special about it, where it's a healing plant. I mean, it's special that way. So I think, all in all, it's just an opportunity for guys to help, a resource to help guys heal, but also to help others get involved in the space in whatever capacity they desire.
Riley, how did you become aware of the medical benefits of cannabis? Had this been something that was a part of you or your family's life in any way?
It was certainly part of my life. I had been introduced to cannabis at a young age, 15, obviously. Didn't really understand it at all. Back then, it was a recreational thing. It ended up being around a lot of times when you're drinking and partying as a young teenager. But as I got a little bit older, as I turned pro and started playing pro hockey, I started to really get understand the therapeutic properties of cannabis, and I started, consuming it without alcohol and other substances. So I think I removed the fog and started to understand the plant a little bit more that way. So I used cannabis regularly through my whole career. So I've always always an advocate for it, and I always believed in it deep down in my soul. It's just one of those things. It's like, when society's, mainly all society is thinking one way and I'm thinking the other way. I thought it was a little bit crazy at times, like, your soul is kind of speaking to you, well, this is helping you, but, the law says otherwise, and, science says otherwise, which is total crock of crap in my opinion. But nonetheless, I stuck with it and believed in it and, continued to use it. So I've always had a pretty good understanding of, the healing side of it, therapeutic side of it, but it wasn't until I really understood the nutritional profile of the hemp seed is when I really started to understand the cannabis and the cannabis plant in its entirety, and learning about the building materials and the textiles, the food source, and understanding the CBD specifically. So I really started becoming really passionate about the plant. And actually, in 2011, when I retired, I started my own 501c3 called the Hemp Heals Foundation. So that was my own, project that I started to educate people and kind of create awareness in Pennsylvania and try and help move legislation forward, which we've successfully done since 2011. But on the sports side of things is when I really got passionate about integrating cannabis and hemp sports as a recovery tool. So myself and a few others, including Evan Britton, Nate Jackson, and Jake Plummer, and these guys join forces and trying to create a national platform to, again, use our athletic backgrounds to help raise this message above and beyond where it is currently. I think if athletes promote something in a positive way, people seem to resonate a little bit closer with these things. So again, cannabis is a positive thing. We just need to take it out of this dark underground light and bring it to light. And I think that's what we're trying to do. CBD and THC as a recovery tool is, again, it's work versus recovery. We're trying to relax the body. We're trying to manage pain. We're trying to lower anxieties, lower stressors, and trying to promote sleep. All these things are part of the recovery process. So cannabis is the perfect tool. It's just a lot of education that needs to be done. And on top of all that, it's physical sports is the neuroprotectant properties of CBD and other cannabinoids. So there's all these different areas we can attack this thing from a sports perspective, but it's not to say that these exact things that athletes go through that regular average people don't go through. It's all pain, it's all anxiety, it's all depression, it's all managing sleep. So it's just a little bit more acute with athletes. So we just really decided to come together and create an all sports national platform to, again, create awareness, but to show that cannabis is a positive thing. It's part of alternative healing world, and really is a huge tool that we're some of us are using, but a lot of people aren't. And they're funnel down these poisonous paths of highly addictive opiates and muscle relaxers, anti-inflammatories, and sleep aids that create dependency and ultimately some other issues down the road. So we want to keep our guys clean and healthy-minded and spirited, and cannabis is the perfect tool for that.
You played hockey in the National Hockey League, which is kind of notable because it's the only pro sports league in America that's not testing for cannabinoids as part of its substance abuse program or its drug testing regime. Is hockey more amenable to the idea of medical cannabis, do you think, than, say, the NFL or these other sports leagues?
I'm not sure of that, to tell you the truth. And I didn't even know they didn't test because, as far as I can remember, when I played, I got tested 3 times a year. But what I do know about the testing is it's very, very, let's say, they like to turn a blind eye to THC from my understanding. Because I was tested positive every time, so would half of my teammates. There was a couple different tests. There was A, B, and C. A was performance-enhancing drugs. If you tested positive for any of those, obviously, steroids or any sort of methamphetamine or anything that clearly improves performance is a performance-enhancing drug. 25-game suspension, no pay, and it becomes public. The second test is street drugs, cocaine, ecstasy, THC, and whatever else in there. You don't lose pay. It's 30 days in the substance abuse program and does not become public. I don't know anybody that's ever been tested strictly tested positive for THC that got thrown in the substance abuse program. There's always guys that tested positive for higher amounts of cocaine or ecstasy or whatever else, and then they also tested positive for THC. They were thrown in the substance abuse program, not because of the THC, but just in addition to. And the third one is the placebo. They don't test it. So you have, 1 in 3 chances of not getting tested at all, 1 in 3 chances of getting tested for street drugs, and 1 in 3 chances of getting tested for performance-enhancing drugs. But like I said, I don't know anybody that's been put in the program for strictly THC. So I think it's one of those things they just turn a blind eye to.
Gotcha.
But they might have changed that since I retired. I thought they still tested for it, but I could be wrong. You might be right on that. But I know when I played, I got tested 3 times a year every year that I played. So, I think compared to football and the rest of the sports, it's definitely it's definitely softer. But I don't think that their stance is any stronger than, you know what I mean? I don't think that the NHL stance is like pro cannabis. I just think they kind of just like, let it hide in the weeds a little bit. No pun intended. And, where NFL is like literally going after guys. I think it's an 80 nanogram limit or whatever it is. And they're popping guys left and right. So I think, NHL is kind of just like, let's guys do their thing as long as it's within reason.
Well, Riley, let's tell our listeners how they can get in touch with Athletes for Care and learn more or donate or volunteer to help the organization.
Absolutely, yeah. It's athletesforcare.org, and it's a recently established 501c3, and we got a ton of former athletes involved already, UFC fighters, NFL players, hockey players, and to women snowboarders and triathlon athletes and all that good stuff. So you can go online and learn more about that. We're going to be implementing a few different programs here in the very near future, and we do a ton of different cannabis events. We have sports panels where we're talking about, all the stuff we're talking about here is cannabis as a recovery tool, but also as neuroprotectant and helping with concussions and CTE. So we're trying to get across the map here in the next year and really kind of nailing down the foundation. But for the time being, there's an opportunity to check out online, athletesforcare.com or athletesforcare.org, and to learn more about us. It's just, it's fresh. There's been a bunch of different groups that are kind of quietly and done their own, sports groups specifically to their sport, but I think this is kind of broadens it. They're not exclusively just football players or UFC or just hockey. It's under one umbrella. The veterans are in there. They're the ultimate athlete. Everyone needs this medicine. It's not exclusive to athletes, but that's the platform we're taking here. So it's, again, it's education. It's kind of, changing the way people perceive this plant, and it's a tool. It just needs to be looked at like one. You got to take it out of the darkness, bring it to light, and just talk about its positivity.
Riley Cote with Athletes for Care. Check them out at athletesforcare.org to learn more about the organization. Riley, thanks so much for spreading the news and joining us on the program today.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
This episode was produced as part of the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville, the daily news and interview podcast covering the world of medical cannabis, adult marijuana, industrial hemp, and spiritual ganja. MJAgenda.com.
Hi, I'm Russ Belville from the Marijuana Agenda. If you're a cannabis brand looking to build trust and awareness within the community, consider becoming a sponsor of this program. Your message will be seen and heard by the most dedicated followers of marijuana policy reform, who are loyal and supportive of those brands that give back to the community. Just log on to mjagenda.com and click the Become a Patron button to learn how your brand can also be featured in my live nationwide appearances. Thank you for your support.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
Hey everybody, it's Russ Belville from the Marijuana Agenda, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
Total war against public enemy number one.
10 federal criminal penalties for 1 ounce of marijuana.
Marijuana is probably the most dangerous drug.
Legalization is just another word for surrender.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
This is not medicine. This is a Cheech and Chong show.
Encourage people to use less drugs.
I am ill.
That was the point.
I think it would be a mistake to legalize.
Negative reports coming out of Colorado.
People don't smoke marijuana.
Well, the 26th annual Seattle Hempfest takes place this weekend, and I'll be heading up there to appear on Friday and Saturday. But as I go up there, we are under attack from Kevin Sabet, the Joker to my Batman, the head of the prohibitionist group Project Samuel, Smart Approaches to Marijuana Use, Except Legalization. And we get this report from Como News up there in Seattle, which shows that Project Sam is actually spending money on ads in one of the Seattle papers to attack Seattle Hempfest, one of the free weeklies, right? And Sabet is playing his old Big Tobacco 2.0 card here. He says, quote, well, Hempfest is thought of as the old festival of people who just like to smoke pot and use hemp, and what's the big deal? In reality, if you look at the sponsors, they've been taken over by corporate pot. Dun, 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 right? He continues to Como News, quote, while we don't want people thrown in prison for marijuana or criminalized, we also think that the marijuana industry should not grow to be another tobacco industry, end quote. All right, so first of all, let's make absolutely clear that Kevin Sabet's Project Sam supports the continued criminalization, misdemeanors, and felonies for the cultivation, distribution, and sale of marijuana. He is absolutely an old school prohibitionist and wants to lock him up, throw away the key. When he tells you all of this feel-good stuff about people shouldn't be criminalized, people shouldn't be thrown away, he's talking about marijuana consumers, which he'd just as well have continue making their black market transactions, going to the parking lots of the Walgreens and hanging out, waiting for the guy to show up 30 minutes late with a gram short bag. But yeah, Kevin Sabet, he wants to make y'all feel good, right? Oh, we're not against the hippies and their Hempfest, but warns that they're taken over by Big Tobacco, or Big Tobacco 2.0, his big marijuana. Folks, if Seattle Hempfest were taken over by big marijuana, by corporate pot, why would they have shrunk from being 6 stages over the past 25 years to now being 3 stages? They're in such dire straits trying to fundraise to keep this thing going that they had to cut in half the number of stages that they're putting up at the Seattle Hempfest. Why? Because it's an all-volunteer organization, and it's all run by donations, by people kicking in the buckets when they come in or when they leave, right? They can't have it be by admission price, which is, if you did admission for something like Seattle Hempfest, this is like a major music festival kind of thing, you'd be charging $20-$30 a head to get in. But they can't charge that because then it's not a free speech event. And if it's not a free speech event, then the marijuana use that's going on, it starts to run afoul of other sorts of laws. So it has to be free admission, also because it's a public park. So you get this big old public park that used to have 6 stages full of bands for 3 days straight. Now they're cutting down to 3 stages. And you ask yourself, well, why the hell is that happening if they're taken over by Big Tobacco 2.0, whatever the hell you want to call it? Why aren't the corporate titans of marijuana pumping money into Seattle Hempfest to keep it alive? I'll tell you why. Because legalization has actually put restrictions on advertising and promotion so tightly that a state where you used to be able to have cannabis cups and fairly big advertising and promotion budgets going on, the legalization has ironically made it more restricted as far as being able to advertise the stuff. This is from the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board, the LCB, their official state FAQ, frequently asked question, on advertising in Washington State. This is what the Washington State big marijuana has to abide by. The board limits each retail license premises to 2 signs identifying the retail outlet by the licensee's business name or trade name that is affixed or hanging in the windows or on the outside of the premises that is visible to the general public from the public right-of-way. The size of the signs is limited to 1,600 square inches. That means for your business, outside your business, your shop, you can have 2 1,600 square inch signs. That's not a big sign. And all that sign can say is the name of your business. That's it, right? No cartoons, no colorful leaves, no logos, no fancy designs, just sign, words. You can't advertise within 1,000 feet of the perimeter of a school grounds, playground, recreational center or facility, childcare center, public park, library, or game arcade admission to which it is not restricted to persons aged 21 years or older. When you're talking about a city, that's just about everywhere that's within 1,000 feet of one of those things. So they can't advertise very much, or can't advertise on public transit vehicles or public transit shelters or on publicly owned or operated property. So ain't right there for Seattle Hempfest. It's in a public park. So big marijuana can't advertise at Seattle Hempfest. Seattle, smack dab in the middle of one of the biggest commercial hubs of marijuana industry, and the marijuana industry can't advertise to its natural customers at the Seattle Hempfest. What else can't you do as a business? Well, you can't utilize giveaways, coupons, or distribution of branded merchandise. So you can't have swag to hand out from the stage or from your booth to give away to people. Can you have, maybe you want to have a sign spinner, or maybe a booth babe. Nice looking lady that's leading people over to, nope, can't do that. No provocatively dressed models, costume characters, or sign spinners. Nope. How about Inflato guy, right? Let's put Inflato guy. Nope, can't have that. No inflatables or mechanical devices to advertise your business or product. I know. Take your company car that you got all vinyl wrapped and put, nope, vinyl wrapped or logoed vehicles. What about Your delivery truck? No vinyl wrapped or logoed delivery trucks. How about distributing postcards, business cards, promotional material in public places? Flyers. No, can't do handouts. Can you have brand names of your products outside your building? No, you can't advertise your products outside your building. You get 2 1,600 square inch signs that say the name of your building. How about one of those trucks with the mobile billboard? You could drive that by the Hempfest. No mobile billboards. Transit advertising is prohibited on or in public or private vehicles and at bus stops, taxi stands, transportation waiting areas, train stations, airports, etc. Okay, how about we just give away some t-shirts? Jackets. Nope, can't give away t-shirts or jackets. Are we allowed to set up a booth at a venue? For example, Hempfest, with a company logo on it. Can we hand out product information at our booth? Does the handout info on our products have to have disclaimers on everything? Yes, you may have a booth at Hempfest type activities and hand out product information, so long as you conform with all the advertising restrictions that I have already mentioned. So really, you can set up a booth and hand out a card that says the name of your business on it, and that's pretty much it. You can't give away stuff. You certainly can't have any flour on hand or products on hand for sampling, despite the fact that everyone in a 1 mile radius in that park is going to be openly smoking pot. Tell me, Kevin Sabet, where the advertising restrictions are for alcohol in that respect. Because every year I go to the Oregon Brewers Fest and there's 80,000 people running around, and all these brewers get to give out samples. They get to give out samples in the flights of different types of brews and different types of ciders that they've got available. 80,000 people coming in, and they're allowed to bring their kids. That's right. If you're a parent, you got a kid, no matter how young, you can bring your kid to the Oregon Brewers Fest, where brewers, big alcohol, big businesses, are giving away swag and giving away branded stuff and giving away actual samples of their drugs. As long as you sign a form. You do have to sign a form. You have to say, I promise my kid won't do those drugs. There you go. Everything's cool with the most harmful, most deadly, dangerous, addictive, legal drug there is. That's all great. But boy, we have a bunch of people selling pot that never killed anybody. We got to make sure they can't advertise. They can't have giveaways. They can't have marketing. They can't do anything in any way that might entice adults to use a product they're legally entitled to use. It's weird that now that it's marijuana, we finally got around all this public health. Oh my gosh, we shouldn't advertise to kids. Oh my gosh, we should have limitations. We already let the pharmaceuticals and the sugared breakfast cereals and the fast food and the alcohol and the tobacco through, but oh my God, not the weed. Oh, not the weed.
Follow MJ Agenda on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, and follow MJ Agenda Show on Twitter. Learn more at mjagenda.com.
That's all the time we got for today. We'll see you next Tuesday after the eclipse. Happy Hempfest, everyone. We'll see you up there. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down.